As the world continues to digest the all-time great hip-hop moment that Kendrick Lamar's pop-out concert was, well, for most people, they are
Which
going to
was
remember this
fire.
performance as a celebration of Kendrick Lamar's victory in one of the biggest rap beefs of all time and for solidifying the loss Drake took so that it will haunt his reputation and legacy forever. Aside from just cooking Drake, there was something else that shifted the tides in hip-hop that went down at this show that when we look at in the entirety of the genre, you could very well argue is much more important. Now, what I am talking about is, of course, the absolute display this concert was for the West Coast in hip-hop, as before this show and the entire beef, the general sentiments around the rap world was that the West Coast had fallen off, and between somebody like Roddy Ricch never becoming the superstar people thought he would after the success of his 2019 album Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial, and of course the loss of Nipsey Hussle, who really was the face of the West Coast when it came to representing the region to the rest of the world. With unfortunate events like these, and the fact that rappers like Kendrick Lamar and Schoolboy Q were becoming less active, the West Coast was being labeled as a region in hip-hop that was on the downfall and that would never regain the former glory that it had either in the 2010s or all the way back in the 90s, but now with this concert, Kendrick Lamar has flipped this narrative on its head. Now, towards the end of the pop-out concert, Kendrick himself talked about how the goal of everything that went down and the show he just had was not to battle a single artist who he had problems with, but it was once again to unite the West Coast, shine some brightness on an area that is still dealing with the losses of legends like Nipsey Hussle and Kobe Bryant, and overall, show how much stronger regions in hip-hop are when artists build on what one another are doing. And when it comes to accomplishing this, Kendrick pulled something off that will have a very long-lasting impact that is definitely going to help architect the immediate future in hip-hop. Now, the pop-out concert did definitely shut down Drake and hand him an eternal L by just showing every single thing he tried to diss Kendrick about as being a sheer and utter lie. But in the greater sense, when we look at the bigger picture of this moment and the entire feud, while Kendrick Lamar has definitely had over a decade-long standoff with Drake, genuinely despises him, and has wanted to prove once and for all that they should never be put in the same conversation, when we look at every step he has taken in this beef, while this is all true, it only seems to be really half of his motivation for doing all this, because while he definitely wanted this matchup with Drake to step over him in this feud for the ages, I think we can put together that he also knew that it would take a musical conflict of this magnitude and scale to pull together what ultimately was just as, and arguably is more important to him, which was to unite his city. And to do this, he needed to bring everyone together through one common enemy, and while Kendrick just going at Drake.
And that's very true though. Like, a lot of times people won't come together until they got the same enemy. That's the thing. And what he actually did was shine a light on the West. He brought the West together. And I think I think as an artist, you know, like when you bring the West together, you kind of become the king of the West. Like, if you have the power to bring the West together, different sets, but different parts of the West, I know to the rest of the U.S., we look at you as the king of the West as far as music goes. Not on the street level. We don't look at you like that on the street level. But as far as music, yeah, we look at you like it's the king of the West. Because I ain't from the West, and I can just tell you what my viewpoint is. I'm from the East Coast. And like when you unite all that stuff, because from our viewpoint, all that stuff ain't on the same page. And when you make strides to unite everything, and when it starts uniting, we acknowledge that it takes a lot of power, a lot of focus, and a lot of it's a lot of respect. You know what I'm saying? So shout out Kendrick. Let's get back to the video.
Probably done most of the heavy lifting for this alone. The fact that Drake was using the legacy and likeness of who is considered the face of West Coast hip-hop historically in Tupac in this feud as a sort of pawn that he can play around with and go as far to create a fake version of to rap as.
That's where he played
this
this
alone
up.
already did most of the damage in of itself, and as Kendrick started fully firing at Drake, this was the exact angle he built off to call out Drake and use as much ruthless lyrical force as he did on a cut like Euphoria. I mean, just from the line in Euphoria where Kendrick talks about not letting a Canadian disrespect Pac, from the conviction and hostility in his voice alone, a moment like this was able to gain Kendrick the support that he needed to really turn the public against Drake. And overall, when we look at Kendrick's first full-on response track and see that expanding on this angle, Kendrick would go on to talk about how guys like Drake and a lot of the industry does not like the West Coast period, with some short but very direct bars that really punched in the general disrespect that it felt there was around the region. It only further strengthened this need for everyone in the coast to unite and prove these sentiments wrong, and beyond just this, with Kendrick tapping in with some of the biggest West Coast producers out there during the feud, like with The Alchemist on Meet the Grams, and of course DJ Mustard on Not Like Us. By tagging in all of these West Coast artists right into the feud behind him, Kendrick brought everyone together even more through the connection of their musical ecosystem, and while the names and stakes would have done this alone, Kendrick also making Not Like Us a track that is the spitting image of the West Coast only further solidified this, as from one of the most infectious instrumentals out there from DJ Mustard to the vocal style and flows Kendrick was bouncing through on this track, which were adjacent to the way the one and only E40 raps. Kendrick laid out everything during this beef masterfully to not just get ahead of Drake, but to unite and have his entire coast behind him. And with this concert, he only made all these people who were already on his side solidify their support for him and send this message to the rest of the world. So at the Pop Out concert, all under the unity and momentum of the Drake beef, Kendrick Lamar was able to get more stars in a single building than most events could ever gather, and with each passing moment that the show went on, rappers and even other artists and celebrities were not just showing who they sided with in the feud, but with all eyes on the coast waiting to see how Kendrick was going to embarrass Drake next. He was able to show the world that despite the setbacks the region has faced and all the disrespect it has gotten in recent years, the music coming out of it is still great, and when it comes to the talent that this region has to offer, there are few other places in hip-hop that can match. One of the best parts about the show was just seeing people fall in love or even rediscover how good and versatile the West Coast is as a region, because musically, there is so much fantastic stuff going on in the coast, and now with the eyes on it again to see what it really has to offer, the region had its chance to soar up the power rankings and show that the future is bright, and they did just that. Now, whether this was because of lyricists like Westside Boogie and Jason Martin setting things off right as they came with some of the best performances that artists who are getting the most exposure of their career possibly could, or melodic rappers like Blast, who showed his incredible vocal range and versatility, to even Ty Dolla $ign, who after the run he has been on this year, seeing him back in touch with his roots just reminded the world of how artistically expansive the names from this area can be. Every time somebody stepped on the stage during the show, the world was being reminded that despite what they have been told, the West Coast has some of the best hip-hop talent out there, and as the performance went on, this was only proven more by not just the sheer skill and presence some of the stars who graced the stage had, but also by just the sheer variety within the lineup. During the Heart of Mustard set, we got to witness one of the most exciting sequences in recent concert history as we saw multiple artists come on so quickly and just tear the building up. From Steve Lacy, who froze the crowd with his transcending voice, to then the one and only Tyler the Creator, who lit up the building in one of the most exciting moments of the entire night, as in support of Kendrick and the coast he played tracks like What's Your Name and Earthquake. And then following this, Roddy Ricch came out and performed, and with all of the energy he showed and the way he moved the crowd, it seemed like he got people ready for a full-fledged comeback from him, and after a touching Nipsey Hussle tribute, YG closed this set off performing some of the most hard-hitting tracks any 2010s rapper has ever delivered. Now, as all of these stars were literally just opening for Kendrick, when you look at the fact that songs from this album and this album were played on the same stage together, but also the fact that the unity and support these artists have for one another is strong enough that even somebody like Tyler the Creator, whose last two albums have won Best Rap Album at the Grammys, and who literally just headlined the biggest music festival in the world in Coachella, would do something like this. Overall, just shows this rarely found unified spirit and support the West Coast has for each other that most other regions don't, and during Kendrick's set, this all came together full circle in the most powerful way possible as Kendrick reunited with the entirety of his Black Hippie collective in J-Rock, Absol, and Schoolboy Q, and as these artists performed some of their biggest hits together and rocked the stage with Kendrick, it showed that even all these years later, Kendrick's closest collaborators will still be right by his side to support him in his biggest moments. And
it's crazy because the effects of that concert still haven't been felt yet. We haven't got the interviews from everybody who performed at that concert yet. We haven't got the interviews of everybody bigging up Kendrick from that concert yet, and everything that Kendrick was talking about and what he wanted to do. All those behind the scene interviews, they still got to come out. And it's 20 plus artists. This is a big situation, man. I don't know how Drizzy comes back from this. Because you're not getting the West back. And he got you looking crazy down south. And New York radio already hates you. So you can keep making hits, but um, the West is unified.
This wasn't enough. When Dr. Dre came out and performed Still Dre, California Love, and of course, did the intro for Not Like Us, which in a show of so many highlights still managed to be one of the best moments within it. These full circle moments that were seen during the show, from Dr. Dre to even E40 who did the narration during the concert. All in all, when you see this lineage all coming together, Kendrick was able to make the West Coast the ultimate place in hip-hop right now by uniting so much musical greatness together under one shared spirit, and as a result of this, he ended off the concert with a moment where Kendrick and everybody else from Compton did their own rendition of the To Pimp a Butterfly cover, and with all of these moments that will be remembered for a very long time culminating through the essence of this one photo. Kendrick has brought the West Coast to a place where it's more unified than it ever has been, and at this point, in this current moment in time where Kendrick is on pace to have the biggest streaming year of his career and may still drop another album, DJ Mustard is about to drop a brand new record led by his single with Travis Scott, Parking Lot, which is dope, and you should definitely check it out if you want to listen to a nice summer banger. Dr. Dre is rumored to release not just a new solo album, but he and Snoop Dogg are working on a sequel to their classic project Doggy Style. Guys like Schoolboy Q and Vince Staples just released some of the best albums of the year with their respective records, Blue Lips and Dark Times. Roddy Ricch now has the momentum for a full-on comeback. So many other artists are getting more attention than they ever have been and are getting ready to release new music after getting so many eyes on them from this massive moment. And younger stars like Baby Keem are crafting their next musical ventures which could shake up the entire genre.
That's very true. That's definitely an angle you can look at it from. A lot of the artists that you've seen they're going to be able to parlay this moment into better deals for themselves. Yeah, like it's one thing to be like in a deal or looking for a deal, but if you just got done this moment, which is the biggest moment in hip hop, the biggest moment in the world at the moment, you can parlay that with labels and with marketing and with promotion to then put you in the front of the line for whoever you're dealing with. So if you're on Sony, so I don't know who Roddy Ricch is with, but if Roddy Ricch was looking for a label, well, he gets moved to the front of the line. If Roddy Ricch was already with a label, and he was probably asking and wanting certain things to go a certain way, he now moves to the front of the line and everything goes his way. You get what I'm saying? This moment, it helps out a lot of young artists and a lot of West Coast artists if you were a part of it.
Overall, the West Coast in hip-hop has great artists from the past, present, and future making music right now, and with this shared spirit and unity the region is echoing, that's only ever been felt in a hip-hop region like this in few other moments. It's safe to say that Kendrick Lamar has made the West Coast a musical powerhouse again, and that the region may just have its greatest musical era next. So let me know, what do you think of what Kendrick Lamar has done for the West Coast, and what artists are
Yeah, so what basically what Kendrick just did was unite the West, put the West where it rightfully should be. It has its own sound, its own style, its own culture that needs to be talked about because there's kids growing up out there that have a whole world that the rest of the world doesn't understand. You get what I'm saying? The rest of the world doesn't understand gang culture. We look at it like a joke, but to them it's a dead serious reality. You get what I'm saying? Alright. So it's your boy, What's Up Jay. Don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment. How did you like the Pop Out concert? I thought it was dope. I thought he killed it. I thought it came with a message. He always does concerts that have messages without him even telling you what the actual message is, which I think is dope. And subscribe. We on the road to 10K. I'm gonna get there soon. I know that for sure, cause I got y'all behind me. Y'all like family at this point. Leave comments. If the comment is dope, you already know I'm gonna reach back out and holler at you. All right. And if ain't nobody told you they love y'all today, I love y'all. I'm out. It's your boy, What's Up Jay.